All right, and we're on. We're live. Let's get it. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Up and In Show. Today I am joined with Jake Savicki, the owner, founder, right? I guess we could say,
Yeah.
of Rough Shot Supply Company. And you're also a coach, baseball guy. Grew up playing baseball, correct?
Yep.
And not a great golfer. We kind of figured out,
Not
right?
good. We covered that. We'll talk about
Yeah.
that.
Good. Don't worry. I can say that because I'm not a golfer either. I've tried it 2 or 3 times, and I realized that I'm not spending my time trying to learn golf right now. Maybe later
I
in my
hear
life.
you.
Yeah. But why don't you introduce yourself? I always kind of like let everybody do like a minute intro, 2-minute intro, just to kind of let everybody know how you see yourself. Because like I said, I'm going to do a recap on the notes and the way I see you. But I think it's always cool to let everybody know kind of the way you see yourself.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, like I said, Jake Savicki, owner of Rough Shot Supply Company, which is really a clothing but slash hat, kind of more hats, and is where our real market is. And then obviously just kind of spun myself into a baseball personality on TikTok and a little bit on Instagram and all that. So I guess the way I would see myself is I always talk about it like it's what I do. You know what I mean? Like there's the
Yeah.
person and then there's what you do. Like if somebody said, "Hey man, what are you?" You're not going to go, "I am a baseball player." You're
Right.
going to go, I'm this, I'm that. For a living, I play baseball. I do this. It's part of me, but it's not who I am." So I'm just a guy that I think really, kind of stumbled upon a platform in the last couple of years and want to use it for, good, obviously. But I think that it's a situation where you can be yourself. And I think what's crazy about social media is that, if you're not doing acting, you're not like on TikTok doing dances, like if you're like, what I do is just me and what I say and what I think. And if I think it's funny, I say it. If I think it's serious, I say it. So to kind of have a following, because of like people are just following you because of you, I think
Yeah.
it's a cool thing. You know what I mean? And I look at content creators like it's hard to make content. I'm like, not when you're not trying to.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've never just found it hard. I'm like, oh, there's a video I'll stitch and see what happens. But
Yeah.
so I just me, I think that, and a big piece of the brand with Rough Shot is just everything we have is pretty positive. I mean, our staple saying is that these are the good old days, and our big thing is like trying to really just recognize that we're in it. You know what I mean? Like 10 years from now, me and you are gonna look back at this time and go, oh, being doing all that podcast, like, oh, those are the good old days. Like, so
Yeah.
for me, it's about recognizing right now, like this is where I want to be. This is where we're at, kind of being where your feet are. So I would just say that's who I am. Like a guy that wants to be in the moment and fully, and then kind of push that in ways on other people to enjoy where you're at and live life. I mean, I really think it's a choice. Obviously, good things happen, bad things happen, but if you wake up and decide it's going to be a good day, we're going to make it one, it's a lot easier to do so. We find what we're looking for. There's a lot of angry people out there, so I'm trying to be the opposite and bring some people with me along the way.
No, I love that, dude. I love that. And I mean, when you land on your company's page, isn't that in the bio? It says like basically like hats made for living in the moment, right? Or
Yeah, it does, and it just kind of talks about the things that matter to us. And I think our opening line is, we care about family, friends, and friends that become family. And that's
I
to
love
me
that.
is like, and I think that's really where it is. And your world can be big or small, but either way, it's your world. If you have 100 people in your life that you're close with, that's 100-person world. If you have 10, it's 10, and it's really all the same size at the end of the day. So it just matters what you do in that world. But yeah, I think bringing positivity to the world, especially now, and it's just needed. And having a presence on social media where it just can get so wild. I mean, you're going to have to search for good much harder than you're going to have to search for negative on the internet. So
It's the
trying to
craziest
just,
thing.
it is, man. And it's, I'm no conspiracy guy, none of that. It's just facts. When you go on there, you're going to see more negative than positive. So
Yeah.
just trying to bring a little bit more positivity. That's what
Uh,
it is.
I love that, man. And you're absolutely right. I feel like in social media nowadays, especially when people have like a bigger account or a platform, there's just so much hate. There's so much negativity in the comments and
Mhm.
jealousy and fear, of like that they're not, people aren't adequate or like comparing themselves to other people. So I appreciate the positivity and somebody with a platform doing well and focusing on that kind of stuff because just some of the things you see are pretty crazy nowadays.
They are. They are. And it's
But
funny, people hear me talk about positivity and they're like, your whole TikTok account's about like bashing on baseball players. I'm like, well, it's kind of baseball players' love language.
mhm,
Like, if
that's
you
exactly right.
played, you
You would know.
know. So
Yeah.
and people don't know. I mean, 90% of the videos I stitch and post are literally like 16-year-old kid throwing a bullpen and he DMs it to me and goes, dude, please blast me on social media. Please. I'm like, all right, man. Like
Yeah.
literally 90% of them now are kids going, just put me on the platform. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, if I call your pitch a ball, it's still a 17-year-old throwing 93. And it's like, yeah, good for
Yeah, it's
you.
out. Yeah,
I'll put you on
exactly.
the platform. So it's kind of fun. It's
Yeah,
turned
man.
into a fun thing.
That's really cool, man. Have you always been like that your whole life? Or you like what's your background where you were born and raised and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Parents raise you
So,
that way?
no, I think, so I grew up in Vista, California. So it's like
Okay.
30 minutes north of San Diego, downtown.
Yeah.
I always tell everybody San Diego because it's just easier.
Right.
But my dad was just a blue collar, worked his butt off. He worked 33 years for UPS from
Nice.
I think 18 or 19 years old to 53 and retired and said, see you later.
Yeah.
But he was, I grew up watching him 12 hours shifts, doing his thing, taking care of the family. My mom worked as well. And both of them just very, I mean, amazing parents, gave me what I needed, not what I wanted. You know what I mean? It was got what I wanted here and there, but it was
Yeah.
always, if there was resources, if I wanted to play baseball, they were going to be there to make sure they took me, make sure they got me what I needed and all that. So growing up for me, just seeing them and seeing the work ethic that it took to be a family, to be
Yeah.
honest. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you see it all over the place. So my whole thing, I think that's probably where a lot of my family and caring about the people around me came from. So I went to a real small high school where I was the man and I knew it, but I also knew I was a real big fish in a tiny little sea. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, my senior year, I went to Calvary Christian and we were the lowest division in San Diego. We were driving 2.5 hours in a bus just to play somebody else that was small school like us. And
Yeah.
um, I grew up playing with dudes all the time, and they went to the regular high schools, and I watched them go on to D1. So like literally the competition I was playing is I hit like 615 as a senior with I think
Dang.
13, 14 bombs in like 20 games. And I'm like, yeah, but if I went to another school, I'd probably be hitting 320 with, like I knew
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
I always had this kind of like, not a cockiness to me, but a confidence that it was like, it wasn't that I tried to be confident. I think I just saw the whole picture and said, I'm the best guy here kind of by
Right.
default. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I was always very self-aware of that. And then um, after high school, there was really zero push to do sports at my school. I mean, I literally graduated with literally, I think like 30 people.
Oh wow.
Like we
Yeah, like
were,
really small school. Yeah.
I mean, small. So we would have kids cruise into like our homeroom class and like cruise in and be like, hey, anyone here want to play baseball today? We only got 8 guys. I'm like, fuck, man. Like, I'm like sitting there like, God dang it. Like in my
Oh
mind, I'm
boy.
like, well, here comes another 130 pitch, 7 inning game for me. And
Yeah. Oh my God.
but so after high school, they really pushed just like go to Bible college. And for me, that wasn't the call. I just, it was a Christian school and I just
Right.
didn't want to do that. And not for any reason other than this wasn't what I wanted to do. So
Yeah.
I hung out, got a little job right after high school, graduated young at 17. I turned 18 October after I graduated. So 4 or 5 months after. I was a young
Yeah.
guy. But I went through some life stuff. I've had a brother and he passed away after like a year after I graduated high school, just
Oh
working. My
damn.
brother passed away. This isn't like a sob story. This is just kind of part of it. So I didn't handle that well at all for like 6, 8 months after, just not at all. I was doing things I should have done and came home one night. My mom was crying because she lost a son a year ago. And then I was sitting here being a dick, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I just remember coming home, seeing her and saying, I just got to do something better. Like, I got to do something better than this. This is
Yeah.
bad. So I went to the local junior college, Palomar College, which was very good school. And they were going to redshirt me. And at this point, I'm like, I haven't played in 2 years. Like I went out to shortstop, which is what I did in high school. One of my old teammates from like 13, 14-year-old was a returning shortstop for them. And I looked at his numbers. I'm like, this dude played 43 games last year with 1 error. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah,
so I'm like, right on. I'm gonna go to the outfield because I'm just trying to play. You know, I mean, I
yeah,
have no
yeah,
footwork left. I didn't know what I was doing out there
yeah,
after 2 years, but they were gonna redshirt me. Went to Idaho, which I have a funny story about this a little later. Went to Idaho in a summer league and was playing there. Literally, the first games I've played in 2 years, and it's
yeah,
good competition, college. And I mean, last thing I saw was 70-mile-an-hour fastballs for 20
yeah.
games in high school. I'm like, yeah,
Right.
this is nuts. So I'm sitting there with my coach, who was a hitting coach at the junior college I ended up going to one night. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm like, you need like an outfielder over there that hits like 130 and runs real fast. He's like, he kind of laughed. And then he
Yeah,
talked to me the next day. He's like, hey, were you serious last night? I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? And called the coach and I ended up going up there. Came home from Idaho. I really clicked with the coach, Coach
yeah,
Troyer. He was a Morehead State graduate, played there, and then he just hit. But he was at the time only like 4 years older than me, fresh out of college. So we clicked all summer. And I mean, you know, summer ball. We were partying. He'd be knocking on
yeah,
my door. Nobody else is knocking on my door at 6:30, 7 a.m. going, hey, let's go take some hacks. I'm like, God dang, like,
yeah.
but you know, he was in hindsight the best thing that
Is a
ever
bit
happened to me. So
absolutely.
I went up to Shasta College and sight unseen. I went home from Idaho for 2 days, packed up, and drove up there and said, I'm going. It was really, I think, just good for me to get out of like my hometown after what things with my family, my brother. It just was a sad place to me at the time because things would remind me of stuff. And so it was really good for me to get out of there and go to Shasta. Spent a couple of years there. It was a great time. Um, got a full ride to New Mexico Highlands, which was D2. And you know, it's funny is kind of when I went to Shasta, I got there with this idea of like, you know, after being the big fish in the little sea and knowing that at my high school, I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to like change everything up. I stood on the plate like Stanton. I was like so closed off.
Yeah.
Like I stood an inch away from the plate. I choked up on a 33 and I just tried to pull everything I could. That's
I
what I
love it.
did.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm gonna have to change that because I'm gonna get busted in by 90 something.
Yeah.
And it's never gonna work. And then
Yeah.
as I was going along, I mean, it was funny as it worked. Like I kind of went, oh, this plays here too a little bit because I couldn't go to the opposite field. I just couldn't
Yeah.
do it. It was like very difficult for me, and having no coaches through my high school. And I don't mean that like, oh, I could have been better. I probably would have been the same. I'm not, I'm
Yeah.
not an excuse guy, you know what I mean? But I never
Yeah.
had anybody tell me when you're hitting 617 at a tiny school, they don't go, hey, let's learn to go the other way. So
Yeah, exactly.
so I just mentally, and this is a big part of what I do hitting wise when I teach kids or talk to kids about it is like, I didn't think about it at the time, but the reason I stood like that and the reason I did that is because I was so closed off. I'd step in the bucket a little bit, which would even my stance out. I'm close to the plate. I'm really, if you're painting the outside corner, I'm so close, it's kind of middle away. So I just
Yeah.
manipulated the strike zone to help me. That's really what I did. And I kind of talk to kids about that sometimes. I'm like, look, you know, you're not gonna see big leaguers go up there on an 0 count and try to hit what you're throwing.
Right.
Like they're trying to hit a mistake or they're trying to hit what they're looking for. They get to
Yeah.
2 strikes. Nowadays, they might not even still change. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, whatever. Oh, I know he's going slider. I hope he hangs it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm either going to K up or whatever. But so I spent 2 years there, got a scholarship to go play New Mexico Highlands, which was a funny story. The coach was calling me every other week. How you doing? How'd the weekend go? And my coach was good friends with him, sent a lot of kids there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it was good. You know, went 3 for 7 on the doubleheader, whatever, a couple walks, triple, yada, yada.
Hmm.
He's like, oh, well, we got like 50% for you here. I'm like, okay, cool. It was a small school, so they had
Yeah.
money and whatever. And finally, my coach, after like 4 weeks of this, it went from 50 to 60 to 65 to 70. And I'm standing there with my coach. He goes, is that Jonesy? I'm like, yeah. He goes, give me the phone. He's like, Jonesy, he's tired of this, 100%. He's in, let's go. And I'm like standing there, and he hands the phone back to me. And Jonesy, the coach, goes, oh, you heard him. What do you say? I'm like, cool, I'm in. So
That's how you got a full ride there?
yeah. And that to
That's
me is
sick.
one of those things like going through that and then looking at like what's happening now with sports and all that. It really is. I think that's what I did as a coach the most is I pushed for my kids as hard as I could because he did that for me. And I think that no matter how talented you are, if you don't have a coach in your corner pushing you out to guys, then
No.
you're gonna be a very good talent that's low on a list that you shouldn't be low on, because nobody puts you out there. So, anyways, was gonna go, never ended up going to New Mexico. Didn't even play after junior college. Again, I'm not a sob story guy. This is just part of the journey. Got a physical before I went to New Mexico, and they're one of the highest elevation places in the country.
Yeah.
And got a physical, had some very small heart, whatever condition thing. Doctor's like, you can't go train and do all that in that altitude. It's not kind of like a Kenley Jansen type thing in Colorado.
Right.
I'm like, oh, shit, okay, so whatever. So came home, just did whatever, hung out, didn't know what to do. Applied at the school here, Cal State San Marcos, which is right next to me. Coach is like, yeah, give me all your stuff. That we'll expedite it, make sure we get you in here. I'm like, okay, cool. Wait a month, don't hear anything, call back. It's now too late to register. They're like, no, we never got any of your stuff. So I'm like, oh, that coach just didn't want me there.
Oh
like,
my
fair
God.
enough. So I'm like, whatever, it is what it is. But so somebody called in. I worked at a batting cage just to take some time. Somebody called in and said, hey, we're looking for somebody to coach a travel team. And travels when I was there was probably similar to you. I'm 36, you're 33.
Yeah, 33. Yep.
So travel was the same, probably. I don't know where it was, where you were from, Jersey, right?
Yeah, Jersey. Yep.
So at the time I was growing up, we had like 4 or 5 teams in all of San Diego, and if you weren't one of the best 100 kids in San Diego, you're not playing travel ball.
Yeah.
So I was never really in the world. I think I tried out for a team one time, didn't make it, and went, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So when I coached this team, I told the guys, I said, yeah, I can coach it. I'm good. I'll take care of it. Never coached in my life. Didn't know what I was doing. And the guy ended up being like, his dad was a part owner of the Padres. And then his brother and his dad own this is the random guy that called in and asked if anyone could coach a team he was starting. And he ended up being, his dad, his brother they had a vitamin shop, and they made vitamins. This dude was 36 at the time. They ended up creating the Monster Energy portion of Monster Energy drink. They sold it for like 200 million and said, see you later.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this dude was paying me all kinds of money to coach this team. I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So I started doing that. And then I think the part of me that became a good coach right off the bat was I had like big league tools, right? I was fast. I was 93 from the outfield when I threw.
Yep.
I was a consistent 6'5", 60 guy. Like I was whatever, in shape, 195 pounds. And we didn't have BB Core bats, so I was launching baseballs like you guys were with LSU. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So tools wise, and I certainly
boxes,
certainly wasn't a big league talent, but tools, I was gifted, very athletic. And I just wasn't good because I didn't know the game. I never learned it the way I should have, and I never learned the intricacies of it. So right away when I became a coach, that just all I could do was go, what did I miss, and how can I give it to these kids? So I just became a super student of the game. Like I just wanted to be good, and I was getting paid. So I'm like, if I'm gonna be getting paid, I'm not gonna give these guys a BS product of a coach. Like, I'm not gonna do it. So my whole coaching career was like that, where it's just learning from literally coaches, kids, to anybody that wanted to say something. Like, I'll listen to you, and if I like it, I'll take it. If it's a different angle on what I thought and you said it better, I'll start saying it that way. So that all happened, and then like everybody, at some point I looked into getting a real job and did insurance for like 3 months. And the guy that I worked for was one of the dads on that travel team. And I'm like, man, one day I'm just like, this isn't it, dude. Like, this is tough. Like, I hate this, dude.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what, man? He goes, I see it. And he gave me a great opportunity, And I just felt bad. I'm like, I just don't want to do it. So we ended up saying, yeah, we're going to be done with this. I went right down the little lobby, grabbed a each a beer. We came back up, cracked it, and I was like, see you later.
That's awesome.
As I'm walking out, he goes, you should coach baseball, man. He goes, you're so good at it. My son loves you. You're good. Find a way.
Yeah.
And literally the walk from the office to my car is like maybe 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And in that walk where I said, see you later to insurance, a buddy of mine calls. He's like, hey, dude, I just got the head job at Carlsbad. I need a coach. I'm like, if this isn't an omen, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
wild. So I was the assistant for him at Carlsbad for 2 years. He ended up leaving, and then I got the head job after that. So I was there actually just, I don't know what you even call it, quit, resigned, retired. It all sounds funny when you're talking about high school baseball. Like,
Right.
I didn't quit because I was angry. I didn't resign because I had to, and I didn't retire because I'm 35 years old.
And you're still, yeah, still
Yeah.
doing stuff.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So but man, 7 years of coaching there, and really 9 altogether. But what
Damn,
an
that's badass.
opportunity. Yeah, it was fun, man. It was very cool. We ended up finally bringing one championship to him, first one in like 34 years. So it was just cool.
Damn.
It was a good time. But
Yeah.
that's kind of the journey, I guess, from where I grew up to playing to how I ended up coaching, and kind of the
Uh,
baseball side of me. But
Yeah, I love it,
pretty
man.
cool.
And like you've talked about, right? Like baseball presents you so many opportunities, ups, downs, whatever. And it seems like everything in your life you learned from, whether it was failure or you just didn't enjoy it, like it was the next step and you took something to bring it somewhere else too, right? So I
Yeah.
love that. That's cool.
Yeah, that's a big thing. I mean, learning as you go in anything, and just life in general. So
Yeah.
that was a big piece, man. And there's people along the way that fire you up to do your job better. We're gonna have to get into your story a tiny bit, because dude, I'm telling you, I'll never forget being in we'll save this, but we're gonna talk, because that LSU 2009 team, literally favorite team of all time.
Dude,
I'll
I
never,
love
dude, I sat in bars with my buddies for about 3 weeks watching you guys do your thing.
dude, I love hearing that. You know what's so funny is you're like the third or fourth person that I've had on, interviews and stuff where we've crossed paths or they knew about the '09 team and stuff. And people say the same stuff. I don't know what it was. So like, what was it for you that you enjoyed watching like with our team?
Honestly, like, you guys were just electric, number one.
Yeah.
And I've looked at it before I came on here. I'm like, that team was so sick. I got to look. What you guys, in my math, not my math, but my research might be a little off. But I went through that 2009 team like 2 hours ago just for fun.
Yeah.
Did you have? I think after that season and the next year or two, I think, what do you have, 16 dudes from that team that were drafted?
Yeah. It was
12,
some,
12
yeah.
top 10 rounds.
Yeah. And then like 6 or 7 big leaguers probably from that team.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah. And I tell
Like,
people this all the time. Like the reason, and it's so crazy, is because like we're all boys, and like the reason that I feel like I can have a shop here, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because I'm from New Jersey, like we talked about, and I own a couple fitness studios too, F45 training. So I
oh yeah,
opened up
yeah,
a couple of those here. Like I wouldn't be able
awesome.
to do that stuff without LSU baseball, without our team, without that championship and stuff. And it was like, the community that was around us, but then like the guys that were on the team were all still like tight. Like we're starting to break apart now in the last 2 or 3 years because we're starting to get families, kids, everybody's got different
Mhm.
jobs. But I mean, 5 years ago we still have a group chat of 30 of us that we talk
That's
every day and
that's
stuff.
so
Like,
awesome.
yeah, so we still see each other and have reunions and stuff. And it's just like, I tell people what about a championship team, and like that was probably the best team that I ever played on, and I know it wasn't the highest level, but it was still a
Mhm.
championship team. And I tell people all the time was like, if we were down and in the game, it was never like a panic of like, damn, we might lose this game. It was honestly like, no joke, it would be like we would check the lineup and be like, oh, it looks like so and so is coming up in the ninth, he's probably going to be the guy. Like, it was
Mhm.
just like,
Yeah,
who's going to be the guy today, who's going
yeah,
to step up. And it was like we always kind of knew, and we never panicked when we were down. And I think the year before we went to Omaha, and it was most of that team that went there, except for like one guy really that left. He was a senior on our team and he left, but everybody else returned. So it was like, it was kind of business for us. We were like, this is what we're expected to do. We want to do it. We got the team, we got the guys, we all love each other. Like, let's go do this. Let's not fuck this up, So
yeah,
it was,
yeah,
and it was just fun. We were a bit of, just cocky, arrogant, guys and stuff like that. You needed that a
yeah,
little bit on and off the field. So it was fun. We had a good balance of guys where I think we had 3 or 4 seniors that barely played, but they were the glue to the team. And if they
yeah.
weren't there, we wouldn't have won the championship, because they had a lot
Mhm.
of, they were Louisiana kids that had a lot of LSU tradition and history knowledge, whereas myself, DJ LeMahieu, Micah Gibbs, I'm trying to think of some other, all those guys were out of state. Sean Ochinko, they were from different parts of the country, where we needed those seniors kind of to be like, hey, this is the way LSU does stuff.
Yeah.
You guys are going to be the big pieces. You guys got to learn this, you know? So
Yeah.
that was fun for me. And we're still all really great friends now. So it's one of the craziest stories of my life. And I played a lot of baseball, and it was the best team that I played on for sure.
Yeah. No, that team was different, man. It was electric. I
Yeah.
have the image of Mitchell hitting that triple and getting to third base and just like the
Yep.
reason I loved it so much is because he's a football guy too, and that to me was like that was a football energy celebration on a baseball play. And I'm like, this is what makes this team like who they are. Like that dude just got in there and straight, let's go. And everybody
Yep.
was like, you could just feel it. So
Yeah.
that's part of it for me, having the mix of guys you had between, like you said, 6, 7 big leaguers, 16 dudes on the same team, eventually drafted. It's like all that together. And then to hear, and I was going to ask you about that, and you kind of answered it already, but being on a team, because like you said, probably the best team you've ever been on as far as just team and accomplishment and all that. Obviously, you've been on big league teams where the talent is better, but like the way you play like that, because I as a coach, I had one team like that. That was the team that won the whole thing for us, and we had I think 11 seniors. 2 of them didn't want to play
Yeah.
after high school, and the other 9 all went left on scholarships. Like they were just dudes. And
Yeah.
as a coach, like same thing you said, like you guys as a team, I said, hey, kept telling my coaches, I mean, we just get out of the way, don't fuck this up, like let them
Yeah.
do their thing.
Yep.
And they were like business as usual. Got to the field, we never had to say set it up, do this, do that. It was they set everything up, then they asked us what else do we need. It wasn't like what do we need today. It was like
Right.
everything's good. You need the L screen out now, the mound, what are we starting with? Just enough to be like on top of their stuff. And even at the end, it came down to we were losing, I think, 3-1 in the bottom of the 5th. And I brought everybody in. I said, hey, you guys have been doing this all year. I told you before the game, like a championship game, like the easiest way to lose it is to play the circumstance, not the game. Like to play into like, wow, there's a team from down south. We're from Carlsbad, where those teams down there are gritty, less money. Not that that matters, but it's just a whole different world. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
than we are. And I'm like, we go home. These guys go home and life is good. Let's go get that steak, get in the jacuzzi by the beach. I'm like, this fucking no wonder you guys don't have enough drive sometimes. Like,
Exactly.
and guys down there, they come play us, and they're like, the last thing they want to do is see us win. So the atmosphere is crazy. And I told them in the 5th, I said, hey, you guys, we're down 3-1. We're getting carved up by the dude. He was the best pitcher in San Diego that year. And I said, you're playing the circumstance, not the game. So
Yeah.
play the game. And we ended up winning 16-3. They put up 11 in the
Holy
bottom of the
shit.
5th, and I was like, "Oh God, they did it!" But we didn't do anything. I just said, "Remember what you're supposed to do, basically, like,
Yeah.
and do it." And there's a lot of things to that. You get a couple bleeders that get through, and then you go bases clearing triple, all that stuff. But they were their own team. You know what I mean? And to
Yeah.
look at you guys, like you were talking 2009 LSU. My question was going to be like, maybe not what you learned from it, but like in the process, how different was that team from every other team in a sense of like the way you maybe every team you were on after that was affected by that LSU team and the way you carried yourself on that team, knowing like you said, we're cocky, but we're dudes and we know we are. So I was curious before before your LSU experience, how much did you take from that team and those years and just it's stayed with you, and maybe
Yeah.
what are one of the small things that carried your career to where it was because of that team?
No, I love that. I think I say that all the time. LSU definitely shaped me. I had a very formidable basketball coach in high school. Basketball was real big in New Jersey growing up, and I was a serious basketball player. And so he was my first coach that really pushed me to get like the most out of me, and like um get the most out of my body, get the most out of my effort, just be a good leader, that kind of stuff. So that was kind of instilled in me there. But I brought that to LSU. And then when I got to LSU, it was a different beast. My freshman year, I was still, figuring out where I fit in. But my sophomore year, when I was the Friday guy, it was like those seniors that I was talking about, they were the ones that would come up to me all the time and be like, hey, you're the dude, right? And like they taught me a lot of just
Mm-hmm.
how to carry yourself, how to have confidence, how to be a leader, and compete. And they were the ones we would watch videos of the 97 championship team. And for some reason, I just felt
Mhm.
like that was our team. We embodied that team. So like we would watch their highlights and we would do a lot of their celebrations, and do a
I
lot of the
love that.
things that they would do.
Love
So
that.
yeah, I remember like coming off the field and like telling these guys like, come on, push. Like we were nuts. Like we were crazy. We had Chad and Jared who were football players. So like we were Chad Jones. I don't know if you remember him. He had
Yeah.
dreadlocks and shit and lefty
Yeah.
pitcher throwing like 91, 92. He would come off the field and be like, come on, hit me. And he'd be pounding his chest. He'd be like, dude, we're not on the field. But like at the same time, two dudes would come up and try to chest bump him, off the
Yeah.
field. So I
Got
say
to
that
do it.
yeah, exactly. And it was like that kind of mindset definitely helped me in pro ball. I think one of the biggest things that I had to adjust to was LSU was win, 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 right? It was all about winning that game, winning that weekend, winning that series or championship, um, all that stuff. Whereas pro ball was more about development, right? It was the long game.
Mhm.
Hey, whereas LSU, you're only there for 2, 3, 4 years, maybe,
Yeah.
right? So we need to win now. Versus when I got drafted by the Red Sox, I was a little bit pumped up for every start, and they're like, "Hey, you got 30 starts this year, man. Chill." Like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You don't need to
Yeah.
be yelling. You don't need to be screaming. So it definitely helped me. And in my times that I struggled in pro ball, I definitely reverted back to just be a competitor. Just go back to competing and trying to win versus
Mhm.
development, mixing in your changeup, throwing like all the bullshit that you need to do to develop. But
Yeah.
I think that competitive mindset is something that definitely propelled me in pro ball, and like teams appreciated about me, like kind of
Yeah.
had that winner label type thing.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad
yeah,
I'm glad you say that, because I used to tell my kids all the time. I said, look, dude, look, guys, nobody's going to give you a scholarship and nobody's going to draft you for any reason at the end of the day, for any reason other than they think you're going to help their team win. That's it.
exactly.
You didn't get drafted because they thought this guy's cool. He'll be fun to see in the minors for a few.
Yeah,
They're like, we need this dude to be a big leaguer. And we think he can. And when we
yep,
think he gets there, he's going to help us win.
exactly.
So the winning mindset, and like you said, I like to hear that's a tough, I'm sure. And I know a couple dudes around here, big league guys that, pitchers and guys, the same thing. It's like it's a crazy little line of team, team, team. One of our alumni at Carlsbad is Thomas Eshelman. I don't know if you know him. He was a Fullerton guy. He was the dude that walked like one guy in like 2 years and
I know
started
that
there and
name. Yeah,
started. Yeah, it was unreal. But he's a competitor, and same kind of deal where you talk about, he's like the most competitive dude I've ever met. And
yeah,
to talk about now you're in this, like you kind of said, a long game business of, yeah, do I want the single A team to win a championship? Sure. But would I rather finish on double A this year and not be part of that team? Yeah. I'm trying to
right.
get mine and get up here. And so is
Yeah,
everybody else. It's not wrong. So that's got to be a tough little balance, that maybe just the initial kind of, like you said, shock of my first start, pumped, and everyone's like, chill, bro. Like
yeah,
it's a long year. You're going to want to relax a little bit. But again, you can't teach that as much. I think you can teach it a little bit, but you either have it and you develop it big
yeah.
time or you don't. And I mean, everybody says it as a coach, especially, you'd rather have to calm somebody down than get somebody up and go, come on, let's get ready to go. So
No.
I love to hear that kind of stuff from guys that have done what you've done. I
Yeah,
respect it so much.
well, thank you. I appreciate it. It was a good journey. It taught me a ton about life, failure, ups, downs, all that, and just I think too, pro ball definitely taught me about perspective of, you think it's going to be one way, or you have your ideas in your head about how you're going to perform, or the way that your career is going to go, right? But there's so many variables that teach you like to adapt, because there's so many things that are going to be out of your control that are going to happen, but you're really only in control of how you respond to that stuff. So I think that was one of the biggest things that I learned in pro ball, and then figuring out, just where I stood, and how to do that in like an alpha environment. That was the
Yeah.
part that was really interesting to me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last time I'll pick your brain. Just walk me through the feelings of the first big league time to go.
Bro, think about this too. I was a Jersey kid that grew up a Yankee fan, and my debut was Friday night at Fenway against the Yankees. So yeah, like storybook stupid shit like that, where I like called
It
my dad and
is. It
I'm like,
is.
Dad, we're doing it. Like Friday night,
Yeah.
come on up. Like I still get like emotional thinking about it. And
You should. You
yeah, it
should.
was it was it was pretty amazing. And then I was fortunate enough, we won the game and everything. And my first out and strikeout was Derek Jeter. So like I had all his posters and shit in my room growing up, all that stuff. So it was just like it was pretty surreal. It was I had a really good first year with the Red Sox. I won my first 3 starts and stuff, but I think we talk about adversity and things like that. And I won my first 3 starts, but after every one of my first starts, every start, my first 3, I got sent right back down to the minors that day. Like
Oh, dude.
the third time, I'm like, what the fuck do you guys want me to do? You guys, like, I'm supposed to win. I did it, right? Like, or
Did you
like,
have any? Did you have any minor league starts in between?
yeah. So there was rules like you had to be down for 10 days at least. So I would
Okay.
go up, make a start, come down, make one 5 days later, then go make the next one, win, got sent down for another one, get back called up. And it was like, bro, I was on this crazy streak too. It was like I hadn't lost a game that year since May. And so this was August and September. And I'm like, guys, what the fuck?
What
You
am
know
I
what I'm saying?
doing?
What do I need to do? So
Yeah.
but it teaches you a lot about yourself and just about, like I said, things that are out of your control. They had their decisions, they had people that they needed to put up there, like all that shit. So
And does that come? And I know the big leagues are very cut and dry because it's got to be business. When they do that to you, does that come with just little to no explanation?
yeah, 100%. Like
Good job,
I,
dude. Go down
yep,
there and see you later.
yep. My first start, I never thought I was getting sent down that day. At least I was like, they'll at least keep me up here a couple of days,
Yeah.
like no, I felt like somebody punched me in the stomach because it was no joke. We're celebrating in the locker room. Everybody gives me high fives, and then the guy comes. He's like, "Hey, John needs to see you in the office," and I'm like, "All right." Like I thought he was gonna tell me congrats, and they're
Yeah,
just like,
great
"All right."
job. Good shit, buddy.
Yeah, he's like, "You got to go back down to Pawtucket." And I was like, "My family's here. What do you mean? Like, how do I do? Like, what? Like, I was so confused." All right, and we're back. Sorry about that, guys. If there's a little hiccup, thank you guys for being here and listening to this point. But we're back in the mix here. We'll do another 40 minutes here. Maybe not totally 40 because that's a
Yeah,
long time, but
it
um,
is.
we got to talk a lot about your TikTok game, your company, and everything, dude. So we nerded out about baseball. I feel like we probably could have talked about that kind of stuff
Yeah,
all day. So,
for sure.
but it definitely, I think baseball's perfect. It was a good intro because it's definitely a foundation, probably to it's definitely laid the foundation for things that I do, and I'm sure it's the same for you. So
Hmm.
talk to me a little bit about that transition when you just got done coaching, you said, right?
Yeah, so I finished up in 2000, well, 2000, whatever, we're at 22.
Yeah.
We played our last game, I think late May, and I came into the season knowing it was my last year. I didn't tell anybody, but because I didn't want that to be the story or any of that or change the way I did things. But um, yeah, it was, and I always said I want to leave when there's still some pixie dust. Like I didn't want to leave something that I loved so much because high school baseball is tough. It's like anything. There's a zillion amazing parents and families, and then there's always the ones that are just brutal,
Hard to deal
tough.
with. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like anything. It's like the bad always outweighs the good when it comes to stuff like that. Where I like talk about like Will Smith, like dude's loved by everybody. He slaps Chris Rock and everybody hates him. Like
Exactly.
this guy is the Fresh Prince of Bel Air that we loved and
Yeah.
grew up. Like this is 30 years of giving us amazing stuff. He does something bad and half the people jump ship and go, this guy sucks. So the bad just outweighs the good a lot of times in high school baseball. I could never talk about the bad stuff without praising the good parents that made it what it was. You don't, and I've never been a guy that needs praise or any of that, but it's just nice to have people that, there's people out there that are not disappointed or irritated by you. You're like, cool, thanks.
Yeah. Exactly.
A little 9-5 season and somebody comes up and that kind of knows baseball goes, hey, I got to tell you, you're overachieving with these guys. Great job. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
thanks. Like,
Well, I
we
appreciate
got a
that.
bunch of
Yeah.
young dudes. Yeah. It's like, that's just stuff that makes you go, cool. But that to me, that's why I always said I want to leave when there's still pixie dust. Cause at some point I loved it so much that, and I was ready to leave. It wasn't like um, it's a lot. It's just a
Yeah.
lot.
It's a lot of
And the
responsibility,
same,
I would imagine too,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah, it is. And the same thing, like a guy like you, if you did it, like you'd probably put way more time into it than really necessary, which is what I did. I mean, I'm like sitting in an office breaking things down, like I'm in the big leagues managing a team. I'm like, does it really matter if I put Johnny or Timmy in the 2 hole? Probably not. Like
Right. But you're
it is
analyzing
what
like
it
it
is.
does. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but and you lose a high school game just because you got beat. But I sit down and try to figure out why, and it's like, oh, well, we weren't good enough. That's why. But
Yeah.
so it just was time for me and my family. I got a wife and daughter's 6, and really where it started, and this kind of brings everything together. I think it all kind of happened during Corona. I coached travel ball and then did high school baseball that was like my living. The travel
Yeah.
ball down here, we're in San Diego. There's a team on every corner. I owned a 10,000 square foot facility that, was my business. It was my life. And it was awesome. And that afforded a whole lot of opportunities and meeting so many cool people. But I was always gone. And then travel ball was, we had, I think at one point, I think I had 8 or 9 teams. And it's like, I was the Carlsbad High coach, so I'm the draw. So I felt like even if I wasn't coaching everybody, which I wasn't, I still could make a quick appearance and be there. And I didn't like giving the speech to new teams and at tryouts and then just never being there. They're like, this guy's good, because what for whatever reason I could always speak well publicly, and that was a gift for what I get gigantic anxiety and I hate it. And then after I'm done, I'm like, God, I freaking crushed that. Like, I don't know how or why, but I hate it. I hate public speaking. And then when it's done, I'm like, I'm so glad I did that.
Like,
So I was spread thin, and my daughter was 3 when Corona hit, and everything shut down. We just stayed home and said, this is where we're going to be. This is what we're doing. We're just hang out. And I, for the first time, really got to just be there and was like, this is amazing. And it was more of like, I've missed all this. Like, this is nuts. And so this is where everything kind of comes together. I decided, like, I'm not going to go back to travel ball. I'll figure something else out. And that was like my life and income and whatever. It was easy to say at the time because it was all shut down anyways.
Right.
But I made a point to say, I'm just not going to go back. When it's all done, this Corona thing opens up, like, I'm not going to go back to coaching travel ball. I'll do high school another year. And even that year pissed me off when we did play. That was the championship team. And I was irritated we even had a season because we were locked out of our field. And then I think a week before tryouts, they're like, you're going to have a full season. Tryouts are on Saturday. And I'm like, what are we doing here? I was so pissed.
Oh my God.
My 3 best guys, well, not 3 best, but within the first week, 3 dudes pulled hammies. They're not in shape.
Of course.
Everybody's arms hanging. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, our tryouts were on Saturday. They gave us 6 days advance, and our first game was the following Saturday. I'm like, what? Who decided this? So I went into that thing pretty irritated and just,
I would imagine,
just annoyed. And then, and that season ended up being where they won the championship. It was awesome. I was going to get out of there after that, but there's an old guy that takes care of the field that has been there 50 years, and he became like family to me. And he always kind of said, when I leave, he might leave. And I didn't say anything throughout the course of the season. I didn't have it in me to like quit and not let him know. Like, I wanted him to at least know, like, okay, if the next year I tell him early enough, he might have, okay, he's got 6 months to go. All right, well, this might be it. Like, he was 81 years old. Like,
oh my God.
And the field is unreal. It's literally like a big league field. It's awesome. Crazy. So I stuck around another year for that. And throughout that last year is where I kind of obviously looking for things to do, and without travel ball, and started Rough Shot Supply Company, which started off as a golf thing like we talked about. TikTok was, I think I at the time was like 15, 20,000 followers, posted some golf content. People were like, well, that's a baseball swing. And I just became this like baseball golf guy, really. And I never had, a following of any kind. So I'm like, 15,000, I'm just jumped the gun. I'm like, let's monetize this. Let's start selling some stuff. I'm like, whatever. So I start Rough Shot Supply as a golf kind of brand, whatever. And I mean, I set it all up. I designed some things, but I'm like Googling like golf sayings, and what I mean, like, I'm not good at golf. I like it, but I play a few times a year and I suck. So I'm like looking at it myself, and I just kind of go, okay, hey, it's dropped. The website's done. I'm like, 2 days, everything drops. Here we go. And just through social media and Instagram and all that, and drops, and not one thing sells. Like, just nothing. And I'm like, oh no. I'm like, all right, well, that's life. Like, this is where a lot of the baseball and the failure and kind of doing things, like, it didn't bother me to a like point where it would most people, where they're like, oh, they're embarrassed, right? It bothered me that I did something and it didn't work, and I wanted to know why. Like, why? And then I thought, like, not even my friends, like, not one guy could be like, yeah, this shit sucks, but I'll support you anyway.
Yeah.
So then I did that right there. That thought kind of changed everything for me. I'm like, well, what did I want anyways? Like, if I'm bummed my friends didn't buy it, like, did I think that the 8 friends I have were gonna every time I
Support.
drop something, they're gonna
Yeah.
spend $100 and I'm gonna make $800 every 3 months? Like,
Right.
what was my plan?
Yeah.
So I'm like, let's rework this. And I went into fashion. Sounds like a funny word because it just is a different world, but fashion, the way you dress, whatever. It's
Yeah.
always been something interesting to me. And I think I kind of correlate it to like everybody's working out. So like you, obviously you own a workout facilities. Like, you know that whatever shape you're in will have a pretty significant impact on when you roll out of bed, whether you feel good or not. Like,
Yeah.
you've probably been in great shape. You've probably been in your mind, not great shape. And you know the difference between the two. And working out is hard and it takes a lot and it takes consistency and dedication, but it makes you feel good. And I'm like, everybody also, I don't care if you're 40 pounds overweight, 20 pounds underweight, skinny, in shape, like, you all have your favorite shirt that when you put it on, it fits good and you go, yeah, I feel good. So
Yeah.
clothes to me and fashion has always been like something that anybody can use, wear, put on to feel good. So it's always been an interesting thing to me. But so then I said, all right, well, golf's out. I don't know anything about it. That was a dumb idea. And when you're in doing a business, the only thing that you gauge your business off is, does it make money? I mean,
Right.
that's all it is. So I said that didn't work. So now I go to just straight clothes. I'm gonna make some rough shot clothes and put our name on it and blah blah blah, cool designs. Again, drop, rebrand, here we go. Not one thing sells. I'm like, like, okay, well, that wasn't it either.
Yeah.
And then that's when the third piece came in. And again, like you said, the baseball, I mean, I'm 0 for 2 and I got another at bat. And I'm like, what am I going to do here? Let's
Yeah.
figure it out, make an adjustment type of idea. But I was never like bummed about the first two unsuccessful things. I just took, and without thinking about it, I didn't have to tell myself, oh, it's okay, now do this. It was just like my brain automatically went to like, that didn't work. What now? Like, let's do something else. So then I sat there one night and said, what do I care? Like, how do I put me on a product? Like, what I think, what I believe in, what I feel like. And during Corona, where everybody was like, I knew so many dads that were like, dude, I gotta freaking sit at home with my wife and kids all day. This is brutal. I'm like, these are like, I don't know. This is awesome to me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I love this. So originally it started with um, Rough Shot Supply Company, and then it said established in the good old days instead of like 2020 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, that's because I feel like that's what I'm living in. And I want to always be that way. And then I made one hat that just had a circle logo on it, said these are the good old days. And I posted it, and overnight, I made a sample. I didn't even have any hats, and overnight I woke up. There was like 20 hats sold. I'm like, oh shit! Like, okay, well,
Yeah.
and these are people I didn't know. Like, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Not one of my friends bought one. I'm just like, these are random people.
That's pretty
And it
cool.
was cool. Yeah, and it was cool because it had nothing to do with like the money. It was, to me, it was like 20 people think that what I think is cool. Like,
Right.
they go, yeah, like that resonates. I like that idea of we're living in the good old days. And so I kind of said, what a wild little business plan. Like, tried this to make money, tried this to make money. And then I said, I don't care about the money. I'm going to try this because it's what I care about.
Yeah.
And it worked, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it worked, and it's working now. So that for me in business it was interesting. And now we're doing good. We're selling a lot of stuff, and the kind of logos change and ideas, but really mostly hats with the same sentiment of, be here, do your thing. And while that was all happening, the TikTok started blowing up.
Yeah.
It started off with Bellinger. I'm sure a lot of people have seen, I don't know if you've ever seen those,
I.
but
Yeah.
yeah, started off with those. And that was just such a random, like, it's so random. TikTok is not terribly hard to figure out.
Yeah.
If you post a video and it goes viral, and then you post similar videos continuously, you're gonna blow up on there. It's
Yeah.
literally that easy.
Yeah.
So Belly's one of my favorite players. And then I like make this one video, kind of like, I didn't even think about it. I just walked into my office. I have a Rough Shot jersey that's Dodger colors, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I freaking make this quick little Jackie Robinson video of like the first one, and it blew up, 1 million views overnight, and everybody's
Oh
laughing.
my
I'm like,
God.
okay. So now I'm just like, people are like requesting, like, oh, Belly's do the play he made today, or oh, Belly got traded. I'm like, okay, like, now I'm gonna be Belly until this ends. And that shot me up to like, I don't know, 200,000. That was wild.
That's awesome.
And then I saw some kids throwing 90 plus miles an hour. None of them were strikes. And I did the ball thing. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
here we go. Like, now I'm the ball guy.
Yeah.
So it just kind of, as that grew, and now I'm both. Like, I'm baseball / really just the ball strike guy, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's wild where it'll take you, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I went, and I'm a yes man. Like, when it comes to things, I had a guy reach out. He's like, dude, I think you're hilarious. I'm putting together a celebrity softball game for Jackie Robinson at UCLA, the 50th year anniversary. I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? Play?
Yeah.
He's like, no, I just wanted you to like be on the mic all night. And I'm like, oh fuck, like I can't do
What?
that. But I'm like, and I didn't know this guy. I researched him a little bit. Like, first I go to his Instagram, first few pictures, like him golfing with Steph Curry. And I'm like, okay, well, this dude's like real deal. And I'm like, I'm in,
Yeah.
man. And he's one of my buddies now. Like, I've known him less than a year, but
That's
we
cool.
talk all the time. But that thing
Yeah.
was like, I show up to that and it's like Lil Wayne, freaking Terrell Owens. I'm like, okay, like this is
Yeah.
wild, dude. It was
Yeah.
wild. I introduced the guy that was throwing out the first pitch, Barry Bonds. I'm like, okay, here's the home run king. Like this, it was wild, dude.
That is wild, bro.
And
It's crazy how
you
some
know,
TikTok shit can take you
that's what
like
I'm saying. It's
that's
just
so
so
crazy.
wild. And, well, I met Barry. It was funny. He's in the locker room at UCLA. We're all in there, and he comes walking by, and I like shook his hand. I'm like, "What's up, man?" I said, "I'm Jake. Said, great to meet you." He slaps my shoulder. He's like, "Yeah, good to see you again," and walked off. I'm like, "This fucking guy, you never met me."
Yeah, good to see you again. He probably
Yeah,
that's his blanket statements. That way he doesn't miss when somebody calls him out and be
that's
like, "We've never met,"
that's
or "You've
exactly
met me
right.
before." That's the most awkward thing when somebody's like,
That's
"We've met
exactly.
before." Oh,
I know, and you're like, yeah, I know.
yeah, you're right. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, appreciate that. But yeah, so I talked to him like 10 minutes later. I came over. I'm like, hey, and I know he always had a weird personality with the media, and I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm introducing this guy, and I got this paper of like most of his accolades. And I'm like, I don't want to like piss him off by talking about all this or
yeah.
whatever. I don't know what he is. So I go up to him like, hey, I'm working the mic tonight. I'm gonna introduce you to throw the first pitch out. Are you cool if I like, raffle off a couple of your stats and records? He's like, it's a
Yeah.
pretty long fucking list. I'm like, I started laughing, and he was like, he goes, you better not leave anything out. And I'm like, yeah, no, I won't. And he's like, and he starts laughing, and I start laughing. And he stops like dead laughing. He's like, I'm not joking. I'm like, right on. And I like took my paper right in front of him and threw it in the trash. I'm like, just gonna Wikipedia it. Is that cool? He's like, sure. I stood there with my phone and a mic reading off like 30 different things. I'm like, Barry Bonds. Yeah, I said, I'm not gonna screw this up, but
Yeah, that's
um,
fucking awesome. That's a great story
yeah,
right there.
it was
Like,
cool. It was fun.
dude, that's gotta be so surreal. Just like thinking about social media and our phones like propelling you into a situation like that, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
where you're gonna have opportunities for the rest of your life probably to network with high level
Mm-hmm.
individuals and meet cool people and shit like that. Man, that's awesome. I love
Yeah.
hearing that. and
It
and you
really
and
is.
and and you said it too, like, sorry to interrupt, but from
No.
being yourself, like you weren't like, how can I create a viral video, right? You weren't stewing
Mm-hmm.
at home. It was just like, man, this is who I am. I like watching baseball. I can respond to this. I
Yeah.
think it's funny. And that's the thing. It's like it validates you too a little bit to be like, man, I thought this was funny. So did a million other people.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it is. It's like, same as you. Like, you don't need the validation, but it feels good to everybody. You're like, cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
It's a
love
good
this. It's
feeling.
nice,
Yeah. I
and
think
it's
that's what,
empowering. It really is empowering. It's like you start going, cool. Like, you think about it. Like, I'm gonna post this, and a lot of people are gonna think I'm a tool, and then you're like, but those people that think I'm a tool is gonna be my friends.
yeah,
The other
exactly.
350,000 people are gonna think I'm awesome. Like, oh,
Yeah.
fuck those guys. Like, I'm gonna post this
Exactly.
stuff. And social
No.
media really turns into like a business. That's all it is. Like, if almost everything I post, TikTok is different because you can post just whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a brand to you when you become the brand, and it's like, just like it'd be like it's a business thing for you to own a gyms and own F45s and be in shape and have a resume that says
Right.
I should own this. Not
Yeah. Yeah.
got a little money, just ate some McDonald's, let me open the doors to my gym. Like,
Right.
I'm
Right.
in
Yeah.
shape. Like, that's a business thing for you to fit the bill. Like,
Yep.
when people walk in and see that it's your place, they go, I like it. You know what I mean? That's sweet. So
Yep.
that's kind of how social media is for me now. A little bit of a business where my posts are much more business driven, and not in like a insincere way. It's just
That's what it is.
less thought about what people I know are going to think, and more about the audience and why they follow me and what they want to see and what I like to make. And it just is, it teaches you to not care about whatever it is. That's
Nah,
really it. I mean,
I tell people
that's,
that too. I'm like, first of all, social media is not real. So like you're trying to create content for people that don't really matter anyway. Just be yourself, do make content with what makes you happy, and then naturally people are going to gravitate towards that, right? And if they don't, then who cares? Like if you're in the same fucking position that you're in right now, like why do you got to like get followers? You know what I'm saying? Like
I know.
and like why does that give people merit? You know, like I think one of
Mhm.
my biggest pet peeves is when people are like, yeah, but he's got a blue check or she's got a blue check or she's got this many followers, and it's like, what does that mean? Like actually,
Yeah,
like why is that like, I
let's
don't know.
be
So
real.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
true.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
I like talking to people that have a big following that talk about how they got there in the sense of just being organic, just being themselves, and they weren't chasing the clout. They weren't chasing the numbers and the money and all that stuff. That was a byproduct of being yourself and being authentic to who you are and stuff like that. So that's
Yeah.
awesome, man. I like hearing that.
Yeah, I'm a kind of go with the flow guy. The only time I felt like that was again early on when I was making some golf content. I'm like, I don't like,
Yeah.
I'm literally going to the driving range and buying a bucket just so I could film and hit some balls, like, and make a
Yeah.
maybe a good video, like. And that felt to me like I was trying, and I'm like, fuck that, I whatever, I don't need
That's
this.
not
Like,
sustainable.
no, it's not, and it's as funny as it is when people talk about, oh, you're a creator, you got 3 million followers. It's like I understand a little bit of the like not stress that comes with it, but the people that are like we talked about being something that they're not, that's a tough way to go to sleep every night. Like 3 million
Something.
people like you for somebody that you're not, and then in real life you're like this whole other person. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
I'm just like that's tough because I'm working this camp with these guys from TikTok. It's like a not your average baseball camp they call it. And it's in
yeah.
Irvine, which is a really cool idea. There's a lot of cool people in it. It's just basically a camp ran by like TikTok creators that
Yeah.
and good coaches and all that stuff. But that to me is like I'm excited to go do it and be the little bit of the TikTok personality with a lot of the coach because the TikTok personality is me. I just have to decide to be a little bit more of that part of me,
Yeah.
versus whatever. So I'll talk some shit to some kids, have some fun with it, have a good time, and then teach
Exactly.
them something valuable and that kind of stuff. Like I couldn't imagine going into public like for things and you're like, man, I got a line of people to see me and I'm gonna be just not what they expect. Like
Dude,
that's
I think I opened that opened my eyes maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I was seeing this girl. Um, I was seeing a girl that I had had this crush on social media for like a year, right? And like I followed her and I had made this like I followed her content. I see the pictures. I think I'm making this idea up in my head of who she is, right? And then we finally met. Like somebody knew her, and so I was like, put her in a good blah blah blah, right? So I wind up
yeah.
meeting her, and I'm like, this is fucking absurd. First of all, you don't look anything like my picture, like these pictures that I'm like making up these ideas. You're not the person that every morning when you're putting up 20 stories and
Yeah.
say you're not this person at all. Like it was the biggest turn off. It was like, but it also at the same time provided me like the most clarity of like, wow, this whole social media thing is
Mhm.
really fucking fake. Like it's really
Yeah.
not real. And then I'm like, man, I actually felt bad for her. I was like, you have to do this every day. Like I watched her wake up
Mhm.
and be like, all right, I got to do this video and like watching the engagement and like, okay, if I talk like this, I got good views. I'm going to do it again. And it's just like, bro, what?
Yeah.
You're
It's
getting
crazy.
validated by people's views. Like that's fucked. Like, I don't
It
know.
is
So
crazy. It's crazy. And it really is like sad, which is crazy to me.
yeah,
That's why I used to tell all my kids, and this is funny because I ended up being one of the guys that is a little has a following. But I told them on our banquets at the end of the year, I said, look, it's 2020, 2021, whatever year it was. I'm like, you guys go to college, get your degree, do all that. But if you're not doing something you enjoy for a living, you're doing it wrong because
yeah,
there's too much opportunity. The internet is unbelievable. You can get whatever you want out overnight. I would always joke and say, there's probably some lady on YouTube with 5 million followers that peels potatoes because people like to watch her peel potatoes. Like, that's true. And then like fast forward 3 years, I'm like, I'm a guy on TikTok that just says ball. Like, and people enjoy it.
and
Like, what a
melted. Yeah,
weird
yeah,
world. So
right.
it just I just that's one thing to me on social media is that if you use it for the right stuff, it's a game changer. And if you get sucked into it for the wrong stuff, it's brutal.
Yeah,
It's
nah,
brutal. I mean, my wife looks at stuff and goes, "How do you handle that?" Like people saying the stuff they say to you. I'm like, what do I care what John 7:25 says? I don't know.
right. I don't know.
I
Yeah,
just clicked on his picture. It's a black lab. You know,
Yeah.
but I just get dissed by a dog. What do I
Yeah,
care?
right, exactly. No,
I try to push that on him.
no, you're right though. It's like, why am I going to give merit to this person's comment when I may never see them? I don't even know who they are. They have
Yeah,
no influence in my life. They don't affect my family, my friend. Like, what does it matter? Yeah. But I mean, that's the world we live in. So I love hearing this, and I love like being able to reinforce this when people share the same vision, or at least the ideas,
mhm,
that I do about social media. It's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Um,
I'm just under the impression it's an incredible tool if you use it right.
that's exactly
You
right.
know, it is. It can be just as bad as it is good.
Yeah. Do you hold your hats like wholesale? Do you hold them like or they print on demand? Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have
I
inventory?
have 'em. Yeah, so I inventory them. I'm actually this little room. I have an office in Carlsbad. This room I'm in right now is like a podcast room that's in the building,
Nice.
which is cool. Yeah, they just kind of, it was a game room when I first got the office a couple years ago, and then
Yeah.
I watched them like put in a bunch of podcast stuff, and I'm like, somebody must be doing a podcast today, and then it was just here, and I asked them like, what is all that stuff? Because
Yeah.
I mean, I'm social media. Like this is, podcast for me is something I want to do. So I'm like, what is it? She's like, yeah, that's the new podcast room. You guys obviously with your office, it comes with 8 to 10 hours a month. I'm like, perfect. And I've never seen a single person in here. I'm always just like
Wow.
chilling, doing whatever. So kind of where
That's
I'm at.
pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a podcast later this month. Actually, it's gonna be a fun one. I'm gonna get four dudes. When I owned that facility during Corona, we were shut down, and we had a couple like big leaguers that were like, "Hey, I just need to throw like a
Yeah.
pen like somewhere," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'll open the back door, like go get it," and it turned into literally like 40 dudes that were just throwing live. I'm watching like I almost don't even want to say their names. I don't want to like go back. Oh, it was illegal, but I'm watching
Uh,
like I'm standing behind home plate watching like Musgrove throw to like Moniak, and I'm like, dude, this is freaking nuts. Like I'm
that's
standing
wild.
right behind home, going, no wonder this guy's so good. Like I'm
Yeah.
watching this slider and I'm watching all this stuff, and so met a lot of cool dudes there, and I'm gonna have four of those guys on my first podcast I do together, which I got to know real well during that time. But I'm gonna have
Yeah.
they're all four from right here, within like literally 10 miles of each other, and they
That's
all
nice.
grew up here, played here, and went to the big leagues, all four of them. So I just wanted to, I told them, like, I just want this to be about you guys, like, sitting down and hashing out stories of, like,
Right.
y'all came from the same spot. Look how different your road to the bigs is than this guy's. And I think it'd be fun to listen to them. But, it's just like you're doing, man. Like you said, you got this platform, you got this
Yeah.
resume that gives you credibility, and you're doing good things with it. And to me, I think it's awesome. I was pumped when you guys reached out. I was stoked on that.
Yeah, well, thank you. Again, I know you got a lot of stuff going on, so I appreciate you taking the time. And like I said, I appreciate the content you make and the vision that you have for it. Because I think, like I said, a lot of people are out there for the wrong things. So it's cool to
Um,
hear your story be pretty organic and the things that you're true to. So I would love to even support and have some of the hats down here too in the shop, bro. I think that would be pretty
Dude,
cool,
so
and cross promote. That'd be cool.
when we get off here, send me an address. I'll shoot some over, man.
Hell yeah, that's awesome,
For
dude.
sure, for
Good.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm glad we didn't do this in person, dude. I was looking at all your pictures. I'm like, this motherfucker. Everybody's coming up to his hips. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
he's gonna be like little brother on my head. What's this shape?
Yeah. I'm that awkward tall. I got that 6'7". Yeah, we got to figure it
Yeah,
out, but it's all good. Yeah.
6'7" with an athletic build is a lot different than smaller 6'7". So you're good.
Yeah. True.
That's
Yeah.
awesome, man. This is a great chat. We'll have to do it again at some point, whether on a podcast or just in life, dude, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. If you ever come down this way, if you ever come to Baton Rouge with travel ball, or if you're doing any of that, we go to
Mhm.
LSU game. We'll go catch up. It'll be fun. Yeah.
That would be fun. Likewise, you're ever in San Diego, hit me up.
I come there actually often, so I
Do
will
you?
hit you up. Yeah, I love San
Yeah,
Diego.
for real.
And
Yeah,
whenever I go West Coast too, I'd rather be in San Diego than LA. So,
no
uh,
doubt about it.
yeah,
No doubt.
I'll definitely take you up on that.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
All right, Jake. Well, appreciate the time again, and we'll definitely link up soon.
All right, thanks, man.